So again, this is really, really high level. When people are talking about Office 365, potentially not potentially, but the launch date is supposed to be next week. So that you're going to hear a lot of information flying around. But so what is it? Office 365 is Microsoft's cloud offering that has three main products in it. It's SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, and Lync Online. So what that means is it's just another tool or another option for us for implementing this functionality in your organization. With the options we have today, there are the traditional, the on-premise, having servers in your own environment. You've got hosted servers, so something like FP Web or Rackspace, or I think there's another one, hosted or hosting.com, that is getting a little bit more press. Office 365 is the Microsoft in the cloud solution. So they've got a whole series of servers behind the scenes. We don't have to worry about setting those up or managing them. They take care of it for us, but we benefit from all the functionality of those three products. Just a tiny bit of background here is there has been a SharePoint Online as part of the BPOS platform. That platform, that's the current one. It was based on the 2007 SharePoint platform. Features were pretty similar to what you would get with WSS 3.0. So it was really pretty basic. A lot of people thought it was pretty weak. I'm not sure what their user base ended up being, but it was their kind of Microsoft's entry point into that cloud services. Now, as most of us know, Microsoft does pretty good with the V2 of everything. So now we've got V2 of their online offering, and they're changing the name from BPOS to Office 365. This is now based on the 2010 platform, so SharePoint Foundation and SharePoint Server 2010. There's a couple of different product offerings or licenses. Plans is another word that you're going to see out there. The two that we've got to see during the beta were the Small Business Plan, which is somewhat similar to Foundation, and the Enterprise Plan that's somewhat similar to the Server 2010, has kind of an overlap between the standard and the Enterprise features. So again, very high level. You're going to see a lot of the things that you would expect to see in SharePoint sites. You're going to have sites, webs, lists, and a lot of that same general functionality. In fact, it looks very, very similar. It looks almost exact the way it would look on an on-premise farm, most of the pages. You've still got the same security functionality and flexibility. A couple of things to note is that there is no BCS at release. So that's where SharePoint might be talking to other systems or bringing information from other systems. That is not implemented in any part of the Office 365 at launch, though Microsoft has mentioned that it is something that is on the roadmap. So we're looking forward to that. There's also a very simple public-facing site. It's kind of SharePoint-y, but it is not SharePoint, at least not what you would expect from a publishing functionality. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, and you're going to see more about that online as well. Just one screenshot I wanted to throw in there to prove that it looks exactly like you would get on an on-premise server. So this is SharePoint Online. Again, it looks like a team site that you would get if you spun it up on your on-premise site. Real brief overview here of a couple of the different plans. The Small Business Plan, you can have up to 25 users. One of the key differences between this and the Enterprise Plan is that you only have a single site collection. So you can still do as many subwebs and things as you want, anything that you would expect to have on a single site collection, but it is limited to a single site collection, whereas the Enterprise version allows you to have multiple site collections and a few other things. So the Small Business Plan is I don't think it's getting a lot of press. Right now, most of what you hear when you hear Office 365 is people talking about the Enterprise Edition. So they're going to be talking about features that are, coming. They're not exactly equal with an on-premise, but they're getting closer and closer. So it's just something to be important to make sure you recognize the fact that there are two different versions. At least now there will be more. There's going to be a education and was it government version, I think was the other one. But the Small Business Plan is a great option for small companies. They want to have a web presence. You're going to get the Exchange offering and get some really quality email and calendaring opportunities that you wouldn't get otherwise. You get a public-facing site, and you're going to have SharePoint and then link options as well. So I'm working on a couple of case study blog posts that I'm going to get out shortly, more around the small business plan here, at least for starters. It's also a great opportunity for someone that wants to learn the basics of SharePoint. So for folks that are using SharePoint at the office, they don't tend to have a sandbox that they can play with and try out different features and kind of get used to things. It's part of the challenges we have in governance and user adoption. But one of the things I wanted to highlight was it's really easy to get started with a small business plan on Office 365. So you can spin up a SharePoint site and use it as your own sandbox. So it's a great way to learn the basics of SharePoint for very, very little cost. You can also use it for a family site, which is what my wife and I do for our calendaring. The enterprise plan is going to get closer to what you would see with an actual on-site server implementation, where you can do multiple site collections. You have My Sites. There are some enterprise features. Again, the BCS is not enabled right now, but they're, again, talking about bringing that on. One other thing of note is that some of the plans include Office 2010 Professional Plus. So rather than having to buy separate licensing for your Office apps, you can bundle that together with your Office 365 offering. Something else that I didn't mention, at least in the general slides, was that customization is going to be something else that's very different with the Office 365 approach. There are customization options. You can use what's called sandbox solutions, but it's not going to be anywhere near as flexible from a customization perspective as an on-site or a hosted server. A couple notes about the public-facing site. Some expectations are that since it's using SharePoint, is that you're going to have a full-featured SharePoint site or have some of the publishing features. That's not the case. What Microsoft really gave us was a very simple public-facing solution. It is not a full-featured SharePoint site. It'll look kind of SharePoint-y in terms of you can create pages and you have what's called gadgets instead of web parts. So there's some flexibility. You've got opportunities to use different themes and layouts and colors, but again, it's not a SharePoint site. The pages are stored in a document library, so that's another kind of tease that it's really SharePoint, but the functionality is very different. Another thing of note as well is that at release, we may or may not be able to edit that public-facing site with SharePoint Designer. Right now you can, but there are a lot of, I don't want to say triggers, but there are some people that are running into issues where once they've edited it with SharePoint Designer, you can't edit it in the web interface. So right now it's kind of a touchy situation. So we'll see what they end up doing at release. The launch is next week. At least everyone has been saying it's on June 28th. Some things to keep in mind are that there are some customer and partner appreciation events that are happening across the country. I've got the links here that you guys will be able to take a look at later. So New York, in Minneapolis or Bloomington, Minnesota, out in California, and Washington as well. You can also watch the Twitter feed for Office 365. And then I threw a couple of different resources on here as well if you want to check out lots of the other information out there. They've done a pretty good job at releasing information for 365 platform. There's going to be a ton more I would expect. So these are just a couple of good places to start. Just the SharePoint Online homepage. Service descriptions is a place where you can download different documents that are going to give you feature-by-feature explanations of what's available in each of the SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, and Link Online capabilities. One of my colleagues went out and did a feature comparison between small business and enterprise. So this is a good resource to look at what's available between the two different platforms. And there are also some TechNet Jumpstart videos that are available. And for folks that haven't already, you can still join the beta. And the way that it's working, at least the way that Microsoft has explained it to us, is that folks that are in the beta, those sites aren't just going to go away once things go live. It's going to go into a period where it's still an evaluation, and then you'll have the option of turning it into a real account and pay for the service as well. So sites aren't just going to drop off. You'll have the ability to keep those around if you want to, or cease using them at that point. So just a real quick high-level start on what we're going to see with Office 365 and with SharePoint Online.
Thank you for listening to a highlighted segment of SharePoint ShopTalk. Join us live and ask your own questions every Thursday, 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. You may also join our group on LinkedIn at SharePoint ShopTalk. That's our group name. And we hope that you can join us. We look forward to the continued sharing of SharePoint knowledge.